Hi, my name is Lori Groh. I'm co-owner and therapist at Shoreside Therapies. And today I have with us Allie Ho, and she's a therapist at Shoreside Therapies, specializing in children from ages 11 and up, working with transitions, life transitions, anxiety, depression, and academic achievements. Is that right?
That sounds great.
Yeah. So welcome, Allie.
Thanks so much for having me, Lori. This is fun for a Monday morning.
I know, it wakes us up, right? All right. So, Allie, today we're going to talk about burnout, and I'm very, very interested in what you're going to be sharing with us today. So, why don't you just start with telling the audience a little bit about what burnout is, how to identify it, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, sounds great. So, first of all, we can all collectively agree that the past calendar year was extremely difficult and stressful for anybody and everybody. We all experienced a collective grief in some way.
Yeah.
So, this topic is super relevant as we start a new year. You know, a new year brings the opportunity to kind of turn over the page and start new, start fresh. But that doesn't mean that we're all of a sudden feeling great after
Right.
going through 12 months of distress.
Right. Right. Yes. I know that new year, you start thinking about, okay, what can I do to
Mm-hmm.
maybe like change some of the routines, some of our habits.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily wash away. I know a lot of people kind of were joking that 2021 would bring in this brand new year with none of the baggage of 2020, but that is still going on for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just not realistic, right? We put so much pressure on ourselves to start fresh in the new year. And sometimes we get a little bit over ambitious and we think, oh, I have
Mhm.
all these great resolutions. Let me dive right in. Well, anytime we're trying to start something new, we first need to kind of take pause and make sure we're actually ready to start that new challenge or
Yes.
that new beginning.
Yes. Yeah, that part is so true because it's the system, right, that we create that helps us with the habits. You can't just put in, I'm going to be eating better, exercising, doing yoga, meditation, and more
Right.
date nights and time with the kids and working more. Like that's not
Right.
probably ever
All
going to
that
happen.
what you just described is like asking for burnout.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
So by definition, burnout is actually related to our workplaces. And, you
Mm.
know, we're helping professionals as therapists and social workers and, you know, nurse practitioner here. But burnout is applies to all people, no matter what your career field, no matter what your workplace, anybody can experience this. Essentially, the most basic definition is exhaustion.
Right.
And that can apply to if you are a computer engineer
Mhm.
to a sanitation worker working on the
Mhm.
streets of Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere in between, all of us experience stress, which means that we can experience burnout.
Right. Right. And so what are some of the things somebody would start to notice if they are experiencing burnout?
Great question. So it's going to impact you kind of in three tiers, three ways. So mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Mm.
And so sometimes we're really good at being mindful or being aware of one of those areas, like, wow, I've been having a lot of headaches recently, and they
Yeah.
always happen when I'm on the job, but we don't always pay attention to all the other areas. So,
Mhm.
emotionally, how are you doing? Mentally, have you had trouble completing tasks or concentrating? Have
Yeah.
you not felt as creative on the job? Are you more irritable around your coworkers? So, really, we got to
Mhm.
look at all three of those aspects of burnout. So, some of the common ones that you might see, like, or be mindful or aware of for yourself and for the people you work with, would be maybe somebody who's more irritable or
Yeah.
having angry outbursts. Maybe they look tense and seem
Mhm.
tense, like almost like you're walking on eggshells. If you ask them a question, you just anticipate they're going to snap back at you. I would say those are like really common glaring, like something's off with this person. And then again, like I mentioned, maybe they're having difficulty concentrating, or they seem unorganized. Maybe they're being forgetful, or, you know, a good tip or trick to check in with ourselves would be, are you dreading showing up to your workplace?
Yeah.
Are you having the Sunday scaries? So it's starting on the weekend and you just don't even want to go to work or can't even think about work because it just covers you or floods you in stress. And then
Yes.
physical
That's a big
symptoms.
one that I hear, Allie, is
Yeah,
like dread. And then it creeps into Saturday and then sometimes even to Friday. Yes, that's a good sign that there might be more going on to take a look at.
Yes, absolutely. It's like if you end your workday on a Friday and you don't have means or scheduled time in, decompress before having to start thinking about your week ahead the next week, it's like we're just in this hamster wheel of go, 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 right? So there's got to be some separation between work and personal life in order to prevent burnout from happening.
Yes.
And I just wanted to point out physical symptoms that somebody could look for.
Yeah.
You know, I start with all my clients looking at sleep. I think that's the most important thing, and we can dive deeper into that. But maybe there's been some appetite changes. I mentioned headaches. Maybe blood pressure is rising again, like maybe early morning, right when you wake up, you're having actually morning anxiety in anticipation of going to work. Also, yeah, disorganization, indecisiveness is another good sign to look for.
Yes. Yeah.
Can
Yeah, I noticed that coming up for clients. I noticed that even for myself, or like, I don't even care what we're going to eat for dinner. Those kinds of responses, or just give me carbs. That's another sign for me. Yeah.
Right. And all of these symptoms that I just mentioned, the mental, the emotional, and the physical, you know, these are all signs and symptoms of stress, right? I mean, stress is the physical response, worry is the cognitive response, and then anxiety, right? It all accumulates into anxiety. And so anxiety and burnout kind of go hand in hand. You can't really have burnout without some anxiety or depression.
Sure.
And you can't really have anxiety without some kind of stress impeding functioning.
Right. Where sometimes anxiety can be so linked to workplace, where it's not actually maybe even a diagnosable anxiety, where it actually looks more like burnout, or maybe their career isn't actually matching up to where they want to be in their life. You know, sometimes that's where we come in. That's where you come in, Allie, too, to help with potentially some life transitions of what maybe needs to shift for someone, because they can look very similar, and a lot of times they do go hand in hand.
Absolutely. So step one would be really to do a self-assessment, right? So take a deep breath and feel. This is a great place to put in a body scan, right? Where are you carrying stress? Where are you feeling it? Are you, again, having those Sunday scaries or that dread when you wake up in the morning and you don't even want to show up to your workplace?
Yeah, I love the body scan. Because
Absolutely.
it does show you where exactly that tension is, and it's always different for different people, you know, where that sits. And that tells us a lot too about what to be concerned about. You know, if there is the neck stuff that can lead into the migraines, and just kind of noticing that and stretching and doing some other activities does help a lot with migraines in general.
Right? Wouldn't it be such an amazing world if we all started our day with stretching and restorative yoga? I mean, I wish. Like, as therapists, we are not perfect human beings. We come alongside our clients in this journey, and that's what we're here for, right? Is to give suggestions and implement some behavioral changes with you and track and see what is working and what's not working.
Yeah.
So, self-assessment. Are you exhausted? Are you having tension in your body? Are you having that dread of showing up to work? Are you not able to concentrate? Are you just unhappy in your career, unhappy in your workplace? I mean, maybe you talk it out with somebody, and that's what we're doing today, and that's what we're here for. And then take it a step further. Don't be your own doctor. I read an article in actually Glamour magazine that said you are not supposed to be the expert on these things, that when it comes to physical health and mental health. I mean, that is what your doctor's for. That is what mental health professionals are for. Even if you just come in for a consultation with us, so much can be achieved just in a 1-hour session.
Yeah. And how often is it where somebody says to you, right? Like, oh, I didn't realize that connection, right? And as we're just going on through our life, just boom, 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 on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, not noticing what might need to be shifted or changed. And so talking to someone is definitely one way to help recognize, what might need to be different in your life, what might help.
Absolutely. Sadly, I think in our United States culture, we're kind of programmed from a young age to be productive and to produce, and achieve. And so it's no wonder that the number of adults now experiencing burnout is so high. And again, given what we all just experienced, the collective grief of 2020, here we are in 2021. What a great opportunity to stop, pause, do some self-assessment and reflection, and decide what's really important to me. I think that's part of the assessment phase. Is my work aligning with my values? Am I passionate about it anymore? Are my activities aligned? Is my schedule too full? Is it not full enough? Because that's also part of our discussion here. Is, I like to talk about self-care, and self-care is really looking at what needs to go and what needs to enter my life, what needs to go on my schedule. If you're not exercising, maybe 2021 is a great time to start exercising, right? Starting slow. If you're not spending time with others and connecting intentionally, how can we fit that into your schedule now?
Yes. Yeah. And that is even more hard right now, but thinking about those socially distanced ways to do it and how much we really need that. I think that that's also what the pandemic has shown us, right? Is, how much we actually need socialization and how much we need connection. And now it's just figuring out how we can do that the safest way possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So self-care is not just taking bubble baths and getting massages. I mean, again, in an ideal
I
world,
love that though.
Yeah, those are ways that we take care of ourselves. Those are great. It doesn't have to be something that you spend money on. I think my favorite means of self-care is setting boundaries. And so again, I help my clients figure out what are the relationships that are really important and meaningful and valuable, who really needs my time, right? Because if you're going to a job, a 9 to 5 every day, all day, and giving your all, and then you're coming home and having to give to the other people in your life, your family, your significant others, friends, and again, you're going, well, then there's no time for you. I mean, self-care is, where are you spending time with yourself?
Right. I love the boundaries piece. I think that that's one that you can always take a peek and look at and think, okay, well, where do I need to put some boundaries if I'm feeling this way? There's probably some boundaries being crossed somehow, some way. Even like as a parent, the frustration sometimes that kids bring on, I feel like if I realize that and notice it, okay, why is this going on? It's because there's probably not a solid boundary. If I'm telling them 3 times to brush their teeth, they may not have a consequence yet to it. And it's frustrating. That's where I need to kind of peek at it. Yes. And I think too, like there's so many different ways that our boundaries can get crossed. And I think at work, it is tough, right? There's this other piece of that where, again, it goes back to the American culture of we need to be hard workers and we need to listen exactly what our employers tell us to do. And if they want us to show up at this time, show up at this time. And that's probably not a good thing for really anyone in the long run, but it can be a big challenge to let your boss know that, hey, I can't do this.
You're so right,
Yeah.
Lori. I mean, we're talking a really fine, delicate line here, and I
Yeah.
get that. If you looked at my work calendar and my PTO days, I use every single PTO day that is afforded to me. Why? Because my self-care and my mental health is important, right?
Yeah.
If my boss comes to me at 3 o'clock and asks for a report to be turned in an hour, and I know realistically I can't get that done, it's my responsibility and my right and my choice as a human being to be able to
Right.
say, hey, I'm not going to meet your expectations. I'm not going to
Yeah.
meet these demands. Can you help me in some kind of way? Or here's what I'm thinking. Here's what my plan is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, this happens so much in so many workplaces. But again,
Right.
this is what's causing this burnout.
Yeah. And Allie, I love that you have the second portion of it, because I think sometimes when we hear boundaries, we think, nope, and that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
really there's this extra part that you can add in, like, what, I might need some help with this,
Yes.
or this is what I can do,
Mm-hmm.
or, we might have to reevaluate what time that report is due, and go from there and move a little bit. It doesn't have to be the strict wall.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, part of breaking down the mental health stigma is, I think what's key is all of us, maybe even starting with helping professionals, to become vulnerable and talk about what they need and what they need to feel supported. And so part of the self-assessment, maybe at the top of the year, that I challenge everybody to start doing is, again, what is my workplace like? Am I happy there? Is the career aligned? Maybe it's just one conversation that could happen with a superior, a manager, a supervisor, a director, and say, hey, my hours aren't right, or this one task is really irritating me.
Yeah.
Can I delegate it out? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so again, I like to come alongside my clients and figure that out. What are those nuances? What's working, what's not working, and to become the healthiest you can become.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And Allie, our time is coming to a close. Is there anything else you would want to add that we maybe missed or didn't quite get to?
Well, the hardest part of realizing you're burned out is doing something about it. And so we've kind of touched on that throughout this discussion, doing that self-assessment, doing a body scan, putting self-care in your schedule, starting an exercise routine, eating healthy, sleeping right. But if you are stuck, again, we are here to help. Sometimes it's the realization that you need to make a really drastic change, and whether that's a different job within your career or switching careers. There are really great resources, websites out there. I really love ONET, which is a great place to start if you do need to make that drastic change and decide, I'm not happy being whatever, and I'm going to jump ship and change careers. That website is really good to research careers, find out statistics, and really important information on other various careers. So again, I'm always available to consult on this topic of burnout, compassion fatigue. We are all, as therapists, trained a little bit in career counseling, and we are just happy to have an open discussion with whoever.
Well, thank you so much, Allie, for taking time to meet with me today. And of course, you can reach out to Allie through our website, shoresidetherapies.com, and their information, bio is all there. And thanks again. That was really helpful. I definitely was taking some notes today for myself, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Lori. Have a good
All right. Take care. Bye.